Hearing with a heavy heart. As a former federal prosecutor myself, I served in a department that, whether it was under a Democratic or Republican president, would never use the office to go after the president's enemies or to hide the corruption of his friends. But today, the Justice Department has been used to cover up the possible corruption of the mayor of New York or of a high-level administration official taking $50,000 reportedly.
In a fiery showdown on Capitol Hill that exposed the deep fractures in our justice system, Senator Adam Schiff grilled Attorney General Pam Bondi over allegations of corruption and political weaponization at the Department of Justice. This wasn't just another oversight hearing. It was a stark reminder of how power can twist the scales of justice, especially in a second Trump administration. Tonight, we're diving into this explosive exchange that has Washington buzzing and raising serious questions about accountability in government. If you're finding this breakdown helpful, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss our in-depth coverage of the stories that matter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney General Bondi, at your confirmation hearing in January, made a clear commitment you would not politicize your position. We are here today at your first oversight hearing 9 months into your tenure, at a time when hundreds of career prosecutors have quit because they were required to take unethical actions at odds with that promise, or feared that they would have to take such actions if they remained on the job. When over 1,000 former federal prosecutors have sounded the alarm about the unprecedented degree to which the powers of DOJ are being abused to go after the president's enemies. I approach this hearing with a heavy heart. As a former federal prosecutor myself, I served in a department that, whether it was under a Democratic or Republican president, would never use the office to go after the president's enemies or to hide the corruption of his friends. But today, the Justice Department has been used to cover up the possible corruption of the mayor of New York or of a high-level administration official taking $50,000 reportedly in cash in a bag, or a child sex predator who befriended the president and some of his cabinet members. And instead of preventing partisan weaponization, your department has engaged in a brazenly political prosecution at the president's explicit direction. The department has become President Trump's personal sword and shield to go after his ever-growing list of political enemies and to protect himself, his allies, and associates. My questions therefore focus on these two themes: hiding the corrupt acts of his friends and prioritizing the political prosecution of his enemies. So let me start with the shocking allegations of bribery and pay-to-play. 2 weeks ago, 4 major media outlets reported that Tom Homan, the president's top deportation official working in the White House, took $50,000 in cash in a bag from undercover FBI agents in September 2024, just over a year ago. According to these reports, Homan indicated he would facilitate securing contracts in exchange for money once he was in office in a future Trump administration. Reportedly, this exchange was caught on tape. Rather than pursue this investigation without fear or favor, the department and the FBI under your leadership or that of your predecessor before you confirmed quietly shut it down. Once news broke, your deputy and FBI director issued a joint public statement confirming that the Trump administration closed the investigation. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt denied Homan took the $50,000, telling a reporter, quote, "Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight." So today I hope you can help us get our facts straight. Was that true, what the White House press secretary said when she denied Homan took the money? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, as I stated earlier, I was not in office. I was not confirmed when that was handled.
So does that
Deputy Attorney General Blanche and Director Patel said that there was no evidence that Tom Homan committed a crime. Yet now you're putting his picture up to slander him.
No, I'm putting his picture up showing an interview he gave with, I think, Fox, in which he was asked explicitly about these allegations that he took a $50,000 bribe, and he refused to answer. He said he didn't answer the question whether he took the money, so I'm asking you the question. Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, I answered that question multiple times. And frankly, you know.
Well, I don't think, with respect, I don't think you did. But in case I just didn't hear you. What is the answer? Did he take the money?
Senator Schiff, that happened prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. I said that.
Do you know, sitting here, whether
All
he
I
took the money?
know is that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Patel said there was no case. And Caroline Leavitt is one of the most trustworthy human beings I know.
So
and,
was she?
Senator Schiff,
was she
if
right?
you worked for me, you would have been fired because you were censured by Congress for lying with your
We can stipulate to, you can stipulate to all your personal attacks on the Democratic members of the committee.
Personal attacks. You've been attacking my FBI director. You've been attacking my office. You've been attacking.
But what we're interested in,
borders are.
What we're interested in is the answer to these oversight questions.
You want your,
so
no,
you were asked by my colleague. You were asked by my colleague.
Attacking good people.
Regular order, Madam Chair, so I can ask a question. You were asked by my colleague from Vermont whether you will support providing a video or audio tape, if it exists, of Mr. Homan taking $50,000 in bribe money from the FBI. Will you support a request by this committee to provide that tape or tapes to the committee? Yes or no?
Senator Schiff, you can talk to Director Patel about that.
Well, I'm talking to you about it. You're the Attorney General. This will be your decision. Will you support?
You don't have to tell me what is my decision and what is not my decision. I said you can talk to Director Patel.
You don't have to try to.
You think you've got a gotcha with Tom Homan, our borders are.
Excuse me.
Who's been out there fighting for our country since Donald Trump took office.
I'm trying to ask a question. Regular order, please. And you don't have to defer to the FBI director to pass the buck. So I'm asking you, will you support a request so that the committee, or indeed I believe the American people, should be able to see that video or audio tape? Will you support that request?
Will you apologize to Donald Trump for trying to impeach him?
I guess the answer is you won't support that request.
After you now know that Joe Biden tried to cover up Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine.
Excuse me. Let me do this, because I think it's valuable that the American people get a sense of what you've refused to answer today. So these are just some of the questions you refused to answer, or have answered with personal attacks on members of this committee. You were asked whether you consulted with career ethics lawyers, as you promised you would do during your nomination hearing, when you approved the president receiving a $400 million gift from the Qataris. You refused to answer that question. You were asked who or what role you may have played, or who played the role in asking that Trump's name be flagged in any of the Epstein documents gathered by the FBI. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Homan kept the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked whether Homan paid taxes on the $50,000 bribe money. You refused to answer that question. You were asked, did career prosecutors find insufficient evidence to charge James Comey? You refused to answer that question. You were asked, how are military strikes on these boats in the Caribbean legal? And you refused to even answer that question.
You were asked, a law degree,
excuse me.
Let's set the stage here. It's been 9 months since Bondi was confirmed as Attorney General, and Schiff, a former federal prosecutor himself, came armed with concerns from over 1,000 ex-prosecutors who've sounded the alarm on what they call an unprecedented abuse of DOJ powers. Schiff painted a picture of a department turned into President Trump's personal tool, shielding allies from scrutiny while targeting foes. Think about it, viewers. This isn't abstract politics. It's about real people, career civil servants quitting in droves because they're being pushed to bend ethics or risk their jobs. That's hundreds of prosecutors walking away, fearing they'd have to cross lines they swore never to touch. It's a human cost we can't ignore, and it echoes historical scandals like Watergate, where the Justice Department became entangled in presidential vendettas. One of the most shocking threads Schiff pulled was the case of Tom Homan, Trump's top deportation official now working in the White House. Reports from major outlets claim Homan took $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents back in September 2024, allegedly in exchange for promises of government contracts in a future Trump term. This wasn't some rumor. It was reportedly caught on tape. But instead of pursuing it vigorously, the DOJ, under Bondi's predecessor, and seemingly with with her team's involvement, shut it down quietly. When pressed, Bondi deflected, pointing to statements from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and FBI Director Kash Patel that there was no evidence of a crime. Yet, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt flat out denied Homan took the money, calling out reporters to get your facts straight. Schiff wasn't buying it. He played clips of Homan dodging questions in interviews, refusing to confirm or deny. This moment highlights a bigger issue, the erosion of trust in institutions. As a viewer, you might wonder, why does this matter to everyday Americans? Well, if top officials can allegedly pocket bribes and walk away scot-free, it undermines the rule of law that protects all of us from corruption. Bondi fired back, accusing Schiff of slander and personal attacks, even bringing up unrelated grievances like apologies to Trump over past investigations. But Schiff listed a litany of unanswered questions, from whether Bondi consulted ethics lawyers on Trump's $400 million gift from Qatar, to her role in flagging Trump's name in Epstein documents, to firing antitrust lawyers over a Hewlett-Packard merger disagreement. He even questioned the legality of military strikes on boats in the Caribbean and whether government officials must obey court orders, a fundamental principle that Bondi wouldn't directly affirm. Expanding on this, let's humanize it a bit. Imagine being one of those career prosecutors Schiff mentioned, folks who've dedicated their lives to justice, not politics. Over 280 have reportedly left voluntarily or been forced out since the administration began purging those involved in January 6th investigations. Schiff referenced a letter from Michael Ben-Ari, a counterterrorism prosecutor who nailed his resignation to his door in protest, warning that sidelining experienced officials weakens our fight against real threats like terrorism and foreign adversaries. It's a poignant act, reminiscent of Martin Luther's theses, but in a modern DOJ context. And then there's the broader alarm from 1,000 former officials calling the recent indictment of James Comey, Trump's longtime critic, a democracy-threatening abuse of power. Schiff tied this to the Justice Manual, which prohibits charges based on impermissible considerations like politics. Wrapping up, this hearing didn't yield many straight answers, but it did spotlight the human stakes, from whistleblowers risking careers to officials evading scrutiny. As we head into 2026, keep watching how this unfolds. It could shape investigations, ethics reforms, and even the 2028 elections. What do you think? Is the DOJ too entangled in politics? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay informed on these critical issues. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.